Well, talks are continuing in Doha between the Afghan government and the Taliban. But as they discuss the peace process back in Afghanistan, violence has intensified just months out from the deadline for the U.S. to withdraw most of its troops. Hundreds of Afghan civilians have been killed and injured since the start of the year as the security situation there deteriorates. Well, the Taliban has been steadily taking control of districts across Afghanistan. Al Jazeera has confirmed that more than 100 districts are now in the Taliban's control. You can see them in red, spread across the country in 20 provinces. OK, let's go live to Osama bin Javed, who's been following those talks for us in Doha. Osama, throughout all of this, a lot of the emphasis has been placed on discussions and agreements that have been made between the US and the Taliban. There must be questions, I would imagine, over what role the Afghan government can play in all of this.
Well, that was the biggest event which happened last year, was that after 2 decades of fighting, intra-Afghan dialogue, Afghans sitting across the table with Afghans who had not spoken to each other, one side belonging to the Taliban and other from the Afghan government, this opened that negotiation, but it hasn't come forth with the results that people were expecting, because there is a lot of complicated issues involved. And as you just mentioned, in the last few weeks, the momentum seems to have changed on the ground in Afghanistan, where the Taliban have again taken large swathes of land. They're moving on to district centers, and there are many places which they have taken without even fighting for it. And to discuss that, we have with us Mr. Nadir Nadri, an important member of the committee which is negotiating with the Taliban. Thank you for taking the time. Describe to us why has so much of Afghan territory fallen to the Taliban, and is that not a failure on the part of the government?
Well, Osama, we need to qualify when we say so much of Afghan territory. Afghanistan is a vast geography. There are districts that has very limited number of population, who does not have, in terms of both the importance of its administrative unit, but also in terms of the population, is not called and categorized as a strategy. And there was an intentional decision that centers of population needed to be protected because the attacks on civilian population have increased significantly. And then when certain capabilities were diminished, that protection of those smaller, not strategically significant was not possible, we needed to pull out of those areas to protect civilian population and the populous areas. That, of course, had, as part of that process, it had an effect. And the effect was that in some places, places were taken psychologically by creating that environment of a lot of PR and other issues attached to the places where we pulled out intentionally by our own
100
decision.
plus districts.
It is 100 plus districts are all those districts from 100 plus are the districts that somehow the Taliban could claim that they're controlling. It's not that all of them fall apart just in the past few weeks. It's time of transition, and in transition the ambiguities are large until the information comes out and until everybody's settled down. Some of these are an impact of what we have pulled out and created a different psychology, and some not less significant, some notable districts also gone into that. But our forces are working back, taking back those centers of population. The important question is this now. Are we going to continue to fight forever, or we are going to sit on table, as we are here, ready, genuinely, with a complete faith, to start finding a political solution for that? An excuse that existed, there were foreign forces in Afghanistan, and that's why we are fighting, is gone. It's no more valid. Now what is valid is to protect our people, to protect the gains we have had, to protect the freedoms our people enjoy, and the infrastructure. What's happening now, the space is being dealt with in a way that is in disadvantage of our people and its future. Infrastructure is blowing up. Civilian population are made human shield, and they are losing and suffering their life.
Well, that is the situation.
Change.
That is the situation on the ground, and people on the ground in Afghanistan seem to be losing hope in this whole process, that there is going to be intra-Afghan dialogue. There is going to be some sort of an agreement between the Taliban and the Afghan government, where the Taliban seem to have the momentum behind them as the foreign forces are pulling out. They're taking more territories. Do you fear that the Afghan government is losing its grip, as there's lots of talk about the government collapsing maybe in a matter of months?
Well, these kind of assessments have been there a long time ago. Throughout the past 20 years, there's been a number of intelligence reports that always have been making assessment and predictions. Of course, they may look to some of the indicators. They do not look to the other indicators. A lot of people are up there taking arms and asking the government to allow them to fight against the Taliban. It's a popular kind of reaction to the type of militarism and military push for taking over territory. That's an indicator that one needs to take into consideration. The other key indicator is wherever there is a fight and there is a district that has fallen, you see a massive number of population leaving that district and moving to the area where the government is. It's a clear indicator that people don't want to live under that kind of a circumstances. Why they don't go a district down where the Taliban already had a control? They decide to come to the government area. Now, making a judgment that the government would collapse is a false judgment. Allow time for the clouds to settle, for the transition to complete, and the ambiguity around that to be cleared. I'm a firm believer that the only solution to ending this conflict and a win situation for all Afghans, be it us, the government, the Islamic Republic of Afghanistan, and the Taliban, is to agreeing on a political settlement on table. And that's why we are pressing for the important issue of a political roadmap, to agree on that, to talk about the important elements of it so that we can quickly agree on a political roadmap and we stop the war and reach to a ceasefire where we can build an Afghanistan that all of our people and our children wants to see.
Mr. Nadri, thank you very much for your time. There you have it, the view from Doha, a view of hope from the Afghan government that there is still time to reach a negotiated settlement. Talks have been ongoing. There has been a meeting between the two sides in the last 24 hours, and the doors of negotiation are still open. But as this happens in Doha, the fighting on the ground in Afghanistan continues, and the people of Afghanistan continue to suffer.
Osama, thanks very much indeed. Osama bin Javed.